Hello and welcome to episode 87 of the Foundry Roundtable, the podcast exclusively covering the Foundry for Star Trek Online. I'm your tame Foundry author, Drogan1701, and with me tonight are two of the top co-hosts that appeared when I pulled up to Drozana Station tonight, Greendragoon, and our guest, Castmodean.
I have a confession to make. I was actually following you.
Something, doom.
So, Mark doesn't seem to have been able to make it tonight. Obviously, if he comes on, we will add him in later on. But, obviously, we have just huge news tonight. And let's get right into it. Cryptic announced today that it is going to implement a new system for seeing Foundry missions out in the game itself. So, in this new system, when you pull up at a point of interest in sector space, and obviously this is only those points of interest that are hooked up as Foundry doors, you will be able to see and start 3 of the top-rated missions that begin at that point of interest. Every player will see the same 3, but these will rotate every 20 minutes out of a pool of the top 100 rated missions to start at that door. Let's see. Currently, this is only for sector space. I can kind of see some problems if they wanted to expand it beyond that. We can get into that later. You will not see any missions that you can't play. So, for instance, you won't see missions from the wrong faction or ones that you're not high enough level for. We got a dev blog today, this afternoon for this. And then just in the last, half hour or so, Salami Inferno has gone on Reddit and answered all kinds of questions. So let's go through some of these. So one of the users asked if this will the default choice when you fly up to a star system, say, and press F, will the default choice still go to whatever normally is at that system, or will they now have to faff about, which is, it's British slang for something, picking up the right option to get where they want to go? And Salami says the top option will always be entering the standard system. So the Foundry mission options are always below that. So you can just keep pressing F and get the same default thing you got before.
Yeah, and he actually went on to say that this will be have like its own, like a separated list. So
yeah,
it'll be normal options on top.
It'll appear as a clickable button right below any standard missions or whatever that started that system. There will not be a way to turn it off currently, but it's not like it's a pop-up that forces itself on you. You have to click on that button. Let's see here. He does in one comment, he says this is something that he's wanted to see in game for a long time, so he's very happy that he finally found the time to get it in. Let's see.
He also confirmed that this is the thing that he was hinting at back as far as
all those many months ago. And I had almost forgotten that we heard them say something about something to increase the visibility of missions at the dev blog. Or not dev blog, what am I thinking of? Dev panel, that's the word. Let's see, one of the things is you will see a simple UI with a header that says Foundry Top 3, and then the 3 mission interacts with a number of minutes displayed next to it. These will be the average play time.
You'll actually be able to
those. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say you'll actually be able to tell whether you're getting into a short mission or a long mission before you even click the button, which I know a lot of people will really like.
Mm-hmm. Clicking that button will bring up the standard write-up and description for the mission. Let's see, next. Next are the answers to my questions, my personal questions. This is where he confirmed that it was a random 3 out of the top 100 missions for the specific door that you're at. The random 3 will be rotated every 20 minutes.
I know this is I was going to say, I know this has been something that has confused a lot of people, because a lot of people assume...
Yeah, it confused me at first.
A lot of people assume that it was just the like the top 3 rated of all time, and it would just stay those 3. This is not true. It will be cycling missions.
One of the things he says is that there will be some effort in the future to add more Foundry-specific points of interest in the future. We'll file that one under the Department of Redundancy Department. Says currently the system will pull from the most highly rated missions, though they're investigating the possibility of only pulling missions that qualify for rewards. Any regular episodes or patrols will be sorted to the top, and then a separate UI button will be displayed below, Foundry Top 3 title. Yeah, any searchable mission that has the requisite reviews can pop up there. So in essence, one of the things, the concern that I had is, loot grinders and exploits or whatever, are those going to pop up? If, obviously the many, probably the vast majority of them are, somewhere like Earth Space Dock or Kronos, somewhere where this system is not going to be. However, there might be some of them out in the world. And these missions tend to be highly rated. And he says that, under this system that these missions can pop up. Some non-qualifying missions can appear for now. We'll be displaying the average playtime for each mission, so you can see what you're signing up for before you click it. And I think that's it for his answers for now. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Myself, I think it's a great first step. It's closer in line with some of the visibility that they've had in Neverwinter since launch. Now, I'd still love to see more of a sector-wide contact that you go talk to, so you can just have like a one-stop shop. But for people who actually, want to explore strange new worlds, it's an awesome idea. Because, yeah, right now there is no reason to just go randomly to roll up to any planet. Because, yeah, how many people right now are going to one system and one system only because they feel that's the only place they can level?
And this provides you with, 100 possible things for each system. And that can change, too, because, the top-rated lists are going to change over time as missions get new reviews.
Yeah.
Right, and that's one little minor thing that I'd love to see a bigger focus on, would be a way to get more lower-rated or unrated missions actually out of that review hell and able to cycle onto that list. Now, granted, not every system is going to have 100 missions tied to it right now, I think. But just
yeah, well, it's hard to say.
It is hard to say.
For a long time, people have been, people who would, maybe normally set their mission out at whatever star system would make sense in. They've been setting them at Earth Space Dock just for convenience. And I think now this is maybe a little bit of incentive for people to actually set these missions properly where they should be out in the world.
Right. For example,
So
that was one of the things when we did Purity that I kind of worried about, was the fact that we set it in the DS9 sector, which, while it's not a lightly traveled area, it's out of the way compared to the normal. But apparently, hey, I was wrong on that one.
I gotta say,
let's see, how many reviews are we up to now?
Collectively, a metric ton.
Mine, which is the final one, is up to 7,400. Pretty decent.
I say mine's in the Cardassian system, and it's doing pretty well, and it's not even spotlighted.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's just one of those. There's going to be certain clusters where everybody put their mission that are going to be choke points that will get complaints, but at the same time, I would love to find some way maybe to put in a fourth option, which is cycle up randomly one mission at that location that's still in review. and have it on a rotating thing where every time you come to it, it's a randomly different one, but so that people can roll the dice and maybe help somebody get noticed, get out there, get put on a list when, hey, spotlight me.
As you said, this is a first step, and maybe there's some other things that can be done to get people to be encouraged to do missions still in the review phase. Like, obviously Neverwinter being a big example of things that you can do. They have accolades for playing missions that are still in the review phase.
So, as much as I will agree that new missions being unable to get discovered is a concern, I think this system is actually here to tackle a much bigger but less obvious problem, and that is a low turnout for Foundry mission play in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's been said before by the devs that one of the biggest hurdles to getting more Foundry development from developer time is the fact that so few people play Foundry missions. And this system, I think, is designed to directly address that issue, which is nice.
Yeah, definitely. Visibility is one of the big factors. It's one of those plans within plans sort of things where you have to have overall visibility first, and then you have to have visibility inside of what people are seeing. So, chicken, egg, which one do you want to cook first?
But I just want to point out that even if this doesn't bring more plays to a specific author, this will benefit overall all authors, especially if this leads to, like I said, more Foundry plays, which can then be translated into more devoted development time.
Yeah, as if this proves successful, we may well get some more dev time and some time from the feature people, some time from the UI people. Who knows what?
Exactly.
I think the next thing that ought to be on their list, or one of the next things. There's like 2 or 3 next things that that would be very beneficial. But I think one of the next things should be, like a tutorial quest, just a little quest that shows people what Foundry missions are, how to get them, and it explains all of this to a new player.
Yeah. I was reading through the comments in response to the blog post, and someone I came across had this excellent idea of redoing the wrapper to work more like it does for the daily bonus for rep projects or doing rep content. So instead of you seeking out and doing a mission, like the first Foundry mission you play within a 30-minute time window automatically grants that bonus dilithium, and then it goes on a 30-minute cooldown, and then 30 minutes later it can tick off. So it's kind of an auto grants the mission.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. I think it didn't it. Well, spotlights do that now.
Spotlights have their own reward, but I think they can qualify.
But there's a bonus for the first one you play. Am I correct on that?
And any qualifying mission has its innate rewards, which include dilithium. But then there's the wrapper, which is in addition to all of that. So
Mm-hmm. Well, there's another added benefit to this, and obviously it happens anytime that something goes on in the Foundry, is that it brings attention to the Foundry from the community at large, outside the ring of normal Foundry players and Foundry authors. When there's any kind of Foundry related thing hits the front page, there's a dev blog about it, it increases the visibility of the Foundry. Maybe even to, players who frequent the forums, frequent Reddit, frequent Twitter, but don't do the Foundry.
Yeah, and how many players out there really have absolutely no idea what the Foundry is or what it contains or how to do it?
I would bet quite a lot.
Exactly.
That's very likely, and unfortunately, the bigger hurdle there is how do we make it more visible, because really needs to be an in-game thing, because the forums.
Well, no, that's the
if
thing. That's the thing is that this is exactly what this feature is doing, because now whenever they fly up to a system, any system, that list of 3 founder missions will be there.
Well, I mean that
Yeah.
is that's why it's a good thing. But
There's a lot of benefits for this, but I don't think it should be the last thing that they do. There's more
I hope not.
that can be done,
But
and
I think
more
it's
beneficial things that can be done.
I think it's an excellent foundation to start revamping things,
Hmm.
and a very important one, I think, too.
Something to build on.
That said, though, I mean, as with any system, we're not really going to see how well it works until it's actually working. I mean, right now it's in potentia, but
Yeah. I'm a little surprised I didn't see any triple patching today. Half the time they patch triple right before the show starts. So I imagine we'll be seeing that on there soon enough. And they did copy over some of everybody's published Foundry missions, and to my knowledge, even though it has been closed, the Foundry has been shut off there. I think those are still there, so we can
I
find
believe
out.
so.
We can test it whenever they patch this in.
I want to say everything was unpublished last time I saw.
I may be wrong. I haven't been on triple lately.
I went on long enough to find out that my ship didn't get its secondary deflector and went, eh.
That's a shame. What ship are you flying?
What ship was it? Oh, it was my fleet Nebula, which kind of annoyed me because it's not like I can just,
Reclaim it.
yeah. I was like, that sucks.
That may be unintended.
I figure it is, but I was kind of, yeah. If my real fleet Nebula is like that, there can be some splaining to do.
I'm
So
sure it'll be taken care of.
Yeah. So obviously we talked about the benefits of this, and I think overall we probably think this is overall a good thing. But there's still a few concerns. One of mine is spotlights. Don't necessarily need spotlights to be a part of this system. We have our own tab, and that's one mission, one slot out of this top 100 that could go to somebody else, somebody deserving, or somebody not deserving. I don't know.
That's assuming that the spotlights fall in the top 100. I mean, I've noticed people tend to rate the spotlights a little more critically, so they don't tend to pull the super high ratings, with present company excluded, of course. That a lot of other missions do.
Mine's my spotlight being the top rated mission in the Foundry is a completely special case, considering it was promoted by PWE.
Right. So everybody go in and 1-star Drogon's mission right now. But yeah, no. On a plus side, with it rotating every 20 minutes, that will alleviate some of that. But yeah, at the same time, like how many Foundry missions are probably set on Purity's door?
I would have to guess not many. I mean, I doubt the Draylon system is an entirely popular thing, place to put.
So yeah, I'm figuring right there that it's going to be funny when it does like missions 3, 5, and 6. It's like, okay, that starts with mission 1. I have to sit here for 20 minutes until mission 1 comes back up.
Well, and I was talking to somebody, I think maybe Primar about that on Twitter, and I was thinking, I think probably most people when they see that pop up will, if they want to play mission 1, they can go search for it.
Yeah, it should theoretically be an intuitive thing.
Yeah, it's not that hard. I mean, you see the little, open up the mission menu, there's a little thing called Foundry. It's a nice little tab there. But obviously that is a concern. It would be nice if we had that campaign system and maybe link it into this a little bit so that if you see a part 3, I don't know, maybe something like it'll link you to part 1. I don't know.
That would be nice.
And that is kind of a thought too. With the UI for it right now kind of sight unseen, it would be nice if there's some sort of notation that says these are Foundry missions. Additional missions may be found by doing this step, and then actually telling how to open up the journal and go to the Foundry tab so that people can explore more. Just that's a great point right there, that you can make a reference going, there's all this and more.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
even
and
if it's,
one thing that, an author themselves can do on their mission description, because that, I think that will pop up when you click the button, is the mission description, like we can see in the Foundry, in the normal search UI. Put in there part 4 of 6 and the names of part 1, 2, 3, 4, and whatever below it, so that people know the titles of those missions. They can go find them.
Or, well, maybe that's even a thought there, where you can try and create a Foundry standard where all authors put a reference thing to, if you like this mission, go to here and look at more missions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that we'd be able to pull that off, but it'd be
trying
nice
to get Foundry authors to do something is like herding cats, as we well know, with the period. That mostly went off without hitch, I will say, but I'm sure Rogue Enterprise has some horror stories of trying to get us to do things.
The meeting stayed on track mostly.
Whenever Cerberus Films was absent.
That's because
he wanted everything to be a
level
dream.
of the room went down.
So let's see. The other thing is, we know, or at least we suspect, that in the past there's been some missions that were essentially sabotaged with 1-star ratings to bump them off, the top 50 list these days, or before, just to bump them way down to the bottom of the list. And you can see the potential again for this now. If they're only taking 100, people figure out, somebody's mission is on the low end of 100, they could get trolled and 1-star bombed, and that's all she wrote. You're invisible again.
Well, they can't actually see the list, can they?
No, you won't be able to see what the pool is. You might be able to figure it out. It's going to be harder to get to and harder to figure out. But I am always constantly amazed at the effort that people go to screw with other people. So, I don't know. It's a possibility. I think it's a fairly remote possibility, but I don't know.
I don't know. That may be a separate concern entirely and require its own solution.
Figuring out who these people are and banning them. Or, my solution of one of my solutions of just requiring, if you're going to leave a star rating, you have to write something, which also attaches your name to it.
That's been something I always have said, is that...
Oh.
Hey.
Mark has just joined us. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Sorry about that. I got sidetracked.
It happens. We were just discussing the... I don't know if you've seen it, but we were discussing the new Foundry top 3 system that they are going to be implementing.
I hadn't seen that yet.
Okay. Well, quick rundown. Basically, when you pull up to a star system that's a Foundry door, you're going to get the option to see 3 of the top-rated missions and start them from right there.
Ah, excellent.
Yeah. It'll be a random 3 out of a pool of 100, the top 100 rated missions that start at that door, only the doors in sector space. And it'll rotate every 20 minutes, so a new 3 will come up.
Nice.
Which I should say, and I don't want to take credit or anything, but this is something that the community has talked about a lot, and I remember myself specifically talking about for years back, and I don't know, maybe that feedback helped put it into Neverwinter in some form or another, and now it's migrating back finally.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about it. Do you remember back when we had Elijah from Stowe on?
Yeah,
Wasn't this the
from
big
Priority
thing
One.
he was wanting to see?
I don't quite remember.
I want to say it was something like this, where it was go out and discover Foundry missions.
It's something that's come up off and on for years and years and years. Part of discussions on how to better integrate the Foundry with the rest of the game. And so, the next question is, where can we go from here? Now that we're getting this, what are some other things that can increase the visibility to for other missions? And one of the things we're talking about today on the forums with some folks was, okay, now we're getting this thing for sector space. What about the social hubs where a lot of missions start? Legit ones as well as, grinders and exploits. So go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say that reminds me of the way this function works in Neverwinter. Is you go to a social hub, you talk to a bulletin board, and the bulletin board spits out missions.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. Is you got some kind of NPC on Earth Space Dock and on Starfleet Academy and any other social hub where you got interacts and stuff, who you run up to them, they give you a random 3 of the top 100 that start there or something.
It's definitely going to be a challenge. I mean, you could also do it as as part of the door to Earth or Kronos or whatever. The only downside to that is it's such a heavily trafficked point. I'd almost worry about it kind of cluttering up what really needs to be a very simple.
I kind of think they ought to stay away from having Sol, Kronos, and New Romulus as Foundry doors. Just the entry from space.
Yeah.
And I just don't think it's really necessary. I think you got so many doors in those systems that I think it's fine.
There's probably a few it'd be nice to figure out, because I know when people want to set up locations like Utopia Phoenicia or one of the other planets, there's not a really good way to get there.
This is true. There's advantages and disadvantages, I would say. I'll tell you something I wouldn't do. I wouldn't, if I were them, I would not add this system to every interact, an NPC and door in the social hubs.
Well, no,
I think that would be clutter.
Yeah, you just have a big massive glowing mess. But I mean, yeah, our contact would work.
So what else do you think they can do?
Well, on the social hubs, they could actually have some sort of coordinator who's like a central point, kind of like the Harper over in Neverwinter that says, oh, and here's what we have available here behind door number 1.
Yeah.
That's probably the best method.
That's what, that could be that, what the heck, there's that coordinator or something like on our space dock. That's one of the contacts. But I can't remember what the title is. It's not coordinator though. But because
I'm sure we'll think of it.
Well, because Rogue Enterprise and I were talking about it the other day. Is like, what the heck does this person actually go as a go-between for?
Was it? You talking about the Starfleet liaison?
Yes, the liaison.
That's right.
Yes. Who does it liaise with? Well, it liaises with the Foundry community. Here's all of the things that the Foundry authors have created.
There you go.
You can have a Ferengi dealer on Drozana.
What was it a while back?
Sells you for a minimal Latinum purchase. These holo programs. Actually, that's kind of a cool idea.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I would say the one place that I would put one of these, top 3 buttons, is the holodeck interact on Starfleet Academy. I would put one there.
Yes,
Because I think that one logically makes sense.
please load the following program.
Well, I mean, assuming you want to keep this consistent throughout all the social zones, I would put like a contact like in some central location. So, like under space dock, just off to the side of the that giant seal in the middle of her space dock would be good. Kronos out in front of the Great Hall. Rosana wherever. But I mean, at various places, I think we'd want to
Lord
keep it
Ice,
consistent.
Lord Ice in the chat room says the lore singers outside the main hall in Kronos would be sort of ideal for this, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a while back.
I'm
we
trying to remember. I think of characters on ESD that have no current function, and there are several people who just kind of like stand in random spots. I don't think actually do anything.
Well, a while back, weren't we campaigning to get Akira Sulu as the Foundry representative?
Yeah, the Foundry commanding officer.
Yeah, he doesn't really do anything, does he?
Well,
Or-
apparently he's supposed to be chief administrator of ESD.
Yeah.
So he kind of has a lot on his plate.
Well, he
Well,
used to be.
what about Commander or Captain Maroney? He's just sitting over there in the bar.
Actually, as the coordinator or whatever of ESD, wouldn't he be the person who would always know when things need to be done around ESD?
That's what his chief of staff is. Well, actually, he is the chief of staff, but he has underlings for that.
Well, I mean, the thing with Sulu is that he's kind of a figure in his own right, but his job of giving out patrols has kind of fallen by the wayside.
People do
So-
patrols.
Yeah, but they go out and find him now.
Oh, that reminds me of something that I was going to mention. So people have, in the responses to this, mentioned exploration several times, and wanted to mention to everybody that should not forget that the doors, or the exploration clusters, are now Foundry doors.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And will be
This
fully
is
subject to
essentially-
the system.
Yeah. So this is essentially, can be viewed as kind of a replacement for the exploration system, which, it was always kind of mentioned in some places where they thought maybe the Foundry could kind of take over. And in a way, it kind of is.
Yeah.
It's a good start.
I'm just
Yes.
waiting for someone to start a Let's Play video series where they just go
Random,
up to different.
Foundry missions.
Yeah.
It sounds awesome.
Maybe we should do that.
In
That
addition
could be
to
a Sunday thing. Sunday Foundry Door Day.
Sundry found. Say that 3 times fast.
Sundry or Sunday?
Sundry. Sundry is how I started out. So, all right. That was the big news. The other big news is that voting has stopped for the Foundry Challenge. I don't know. Are we ready to declare a winner?
maybe we haven't gotten the official post yet.
Have you counted the votes though?
So what seems to be happening is the last vote isn't being counted because it came in after the deadline. In which case, it looks like Hippie John and I are tied for first place with Winanoid.
I say
Taking up-
we have a Foundry off.
Smirk seems to be fine with a tie. The idea of a tie.
Well, I'm pretty fine with that too because your missions are so complementary to each other. They're like the two faction sides of the same story, essentially. So
Yeah.
I mean, if ever we were to have a tie and just let it be a tie, this would be the one. I voted for Winoids personally. So I don't know. Any ideas on what the next Foundry challenge could be?
Actually,
Hmm.
I had an idea for a Foundry challenge.
Uh-huh.
I was actually just replaying Temporal Ambassador, and I was reminded of the fact that we have alternate timeline Tanae going back in time on the Enterprise C.
Really?
The dangling thread that
That's
if you're
right.
not
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you could, from one point of view, say it's a non-issue because, in theory, the guy with the time ship could have relocated her and simply not bothered to tell you or show you.
could
But,
have,
they don't tell you or show you what happens to her. So it's open for interpretation.
as I understand it, it's one of those points that it wasn't intentionally written that way. It's just kind of one of those loop or plot holes that was kind of just there, and then certain developers intentionally kept their mouths shut as they realized that it was there, and I guess they would rather see that explored. But I don't think it's going to come back as an official, like, cryptic plot point.
Hmm.
But it's great fodder for a Foundry mission. Like, what
Hmm.
are
I
the
think
effects?
as far as Cryptic following up on anything, I don't think we're going to see them follow up on much that isn't related to the Delta Rising stuff for a while.
Oh, yeah. But
Well, it's theoretically possible that you could find a way to connect the two.
I suppose.
I
I
mean,
should
Be a bit of a stretch, I think.
there are certain races in the Delta Quadrant that have been known to use temporal technology.
I will also point out that Tanae is Vulcan, and therefore, theoretically, if she survived the capture of the Enterprise C, that she could still be alive.
I think I'd do something where maybe she's like a brainwashed Romulan agent or something like that.
Anyway, like I said,
I'm trying to visualize
The
in my
Vulcan
mind.
candidate.
Yeah, exactly.
I keep running through in my mind what a group of Romulans would do with a Vulcan that they captured from the future.
Wait,
Most of them don't involve her comrades finding her alive later.
that's assuming she couldn't evade capture or anything else. I mean,
There's any number of things you could do with this
what
topic.
if
Well-
our Tanae is mirror alternate Tanae? It would explain why she's such an agitated anti-Romulan person.
This
yeah,
is true.
I think she'd be too
suppose.
old to pass as her present day self.
There
Or
are
is
ways.
she?
Well, I think what Cast is getting at is that the original Tanae was actually born shortly before the events in the alternate timeline. So she was something like 40 or 50, which is young by Vulcan standards. Then she gets tossed back in time, and she looks her current age, which is somewhat older. Although, if I remember right, the Tanaean Temporal Ambassador literally has the exact same face as the one from Starbase 39.
Yeah.
Well, probably they probably just use
Oh,
the
yeah.
same model, but
So
who knows?
here's my thought about a Foundry Challenge, and I've actually already got Hippie John working on this one. So, because I mentioned the idea and it's like taken root in his mind. I must have used Inception or something. But, instead of a plot-based challenge, how about a mechanics-based challenge?
Entertaining.
In this case, make a mission only using social maps.
I remember you suggesting this on Twitter, and my first thought was, well, it'll never qualify for rewards then.
Yeah,
This is true. Yeah.
but it's a challenge mission. Challenge missions get lots of plays.
There are many occasions where people have in the past done very similar things. I mean, it was a story-based mission where you go around and you talk to a bunch of people on cryptic maps.
Mm-hmm. You can only do interacts or talk to contacts. So it will rely entirely on the strength of your writing to make this interesting.
It would definitely be quite the challenge.
Yes.
I'm concerned a few people are
And actually,
more than a few
Hippie
people
John is
might.
now saying in the chat room that it's written. His story is written for this idea.
I don't think I would go for that one because, to be honest, writing is probably my weakest at the point in being a Foundry author.
And you know
Well,
me,
there's
I'm
a
Mr.
reason they
Maps.
call it a challenge, right?
This is true.
You want to make it hard for people. You want to make it a genuine way to test people's abilities and challenge them. I have been thinking about an idea that we had, and we, I don't know, sort of half joked about a long time ago on the roundtable, is what about a mission where you find out you're an Undine infiltrator?
Well, yeah, that was that one that we
I'm
were.
thinking to myself, yeah, you're running around Starbase UGC, or not UGC, ESD, Earth Starbase, investigating something, and it turns out you're investigating yourself, something that you did, and you're a sleeper agent, and you find out that you are and you're activated or something. But I can't figure out how to do it without having some custom maps at the end of the mission.
Also, with this one, there's always the whole logical disconnect of writing an aspect of the player character's past, unless, of course, you are going to end it with a magic reset button where you find out that you're playing this as an Undine imposter who has replaced the real you, and you end up rescuing the real you and replacing the Undine imposter at the end.
Well, that's
That
a
was
general
essentially
idea.
what I was going to have happen. Yeah.
Remember, this is the one I wanted to do in tandem with you.
Yeah, and I have in my head the great scene from what was it, like the end of season 3 of Battlestar Galactica, where the four people who have been with you since like the beginning of the show find out they're Cylons, and that brilliant scene, and it just starts with the music, and they're like activated, and I was like, I would love to do a scene like that somehow in the Foundry.
You just want to use Bear McCready's version of All Along the Watchtower, is what you're saying.
Yes, I might.
Well,
Might encourage people to listen to that.
I was actually thinking of that one Deep Space Nine episode where O'Brien finds out that he's like a duplicate assassin.
Mm-hmm. Throughout
Except
the whole thing, he thinks everybody else there's something wrong with everybody else, but it turns out that he is the duplicate.
Yeah. And then at the end, you just
DS9 did several episodes that had some really interesting character work, like exploring alternate timeline versions of characters. And in fact, the original O'Brien that they started Deep Space Nine with actually ended up dying of radiation poisoning in one episode, and he got replaced with an alternate timeline version of himself.
It definitely opens up some possibilities, somehow figuring out that you are not yourself.
I'll tell you what, Drogan, if a Foundry challenge comes up where the Undine story idea will work, I will do we can co-author a mission together for the challenge.
I'd be okay with that.
Well, we might be getting a storyline somewhat like that with the anniversary, if the anniversary blogs are to be believed.
Yes, we do have some anniversary stuff incoming, including at least one ship, which we are all taking to be a Kowali ship.
Well, they did show a picture of a Kobali bridge in one of the posts, so it seems like a giveaway.
And obviously, that ship will make it into the Foundry at some point, as all playable ships do.
Hopefully soon. I'm hoping we get the bridge for it, because the Kobali assets for the bridge look really cool.
Yeah, I like that bridge.
I figure we'll probably see some stuff about it next week.
Mm-hmm. I think the map that we're most likely to see, if any, at this point, is going to be new Earth Space Dock, since Club 47 is now finished.
And Tumor Boy finds time.
Yeah, there's always that.
Well, as far as challenges go, something Kabali based would be my first thing that I'd say they do, since, well, we apparently have this love affair with those little virus propagators.
The Kobali would be a great challenge because of exactly what you're exhibiting there, which is their controversial nature.
The other thing with the Kobali is exploring their origin. I mean, we've had people discussing things on the forum several times, and the Kobali aren't the only race in Star Trek that reproduces by infecting members of other races with a virus to rewrite their DNA.
But
Sure.
at the same time, they don't rewrite living species members, which is kind of the crux of their pariah status.
I'm not even
Entirely
sure how
sure
that
which is
works.
worse.
But
One of them isn't even a sentient species. The basic understanding of how they came to exist in that manner, yeah, no one really ever explored that. Although one thing that I was really hoping that they would do is come up with a way of having someone like halfway transformed into those Tarchenan frog people, so that they could, think like a normal person, but do all the cool stuff that the Tarchenan frog people could do.
I will admit I was always intrigued by that race.
That was one of the very first episodes of TNG I remember watching as a kid. And it was always a favorite of mine.
There was some other race, I forget whether it was from Enterprise or Voyager, who were
Enterprise.
being... one of their neighbors was attempting to exterminate them because their race was on the brink of extinction, and one of their scientists came up with a way of creating a virus that would turn other people into members of that race, as a way of, preventing their race from becoming completely extinct. This virus, however, did not change the personality of the individual. I think it may have given them some sort of instinctual compulsion to visit their race's homeworld, but other than that, it didn't really do much of anything.
Yeah,
I'll tell you
I don't-
something. You can, those Tarchanans, you could make a decent one using the clubware.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Another
that.
amusing thing was that episode of Voyager where there was that alien race who attempted to convince Harry Kim that he was actually a member of their species. Although that was somewhat less
Permanent.
complete
Memorable.
transformation.
I was just thinking about the race from Enterprise. Didn't they keep a sample of the virus?
Well, I believe that they did that as a matter of, shall we say, honoring the legacy of the people who created it.
So I'm just saying that virus could still be around.
It sounds like something Phlox would do. He probably keeps all sorts of things that most people would go, oh God, I'm not going to keep that. That's going to kill us.
I'm just saying.
Well,
somewhere-
in this case, the virus wouldn't kill you. It just changed you from a human into whatever else, and then you continue living your life the same as you did before.
I did
United
read once
Earth.
that... Go ahead.
the United Earth kept samples of eugenics augments in cold storage, so
That's
it's
true.
not
And that
entirely...
and that bit them in the behind.
Well,
could be
we
hanging
keep
on.
samples of things that will bite us in the behind in the middle of Atlanta.
Darn right.
Well, then I heard a rumor that they're going to be adding new special crafting materials that are, shall we say, more dangerous than the ones we currently have.
We're going to get biomimetic gel.
I
No,
hope so, because we can sell that for like a lot.
I heard that these were actually based on omega particles in some fashion, but
Oh, great. Will it cause consoles to blow up on my ship randomly?
No,
think
but it
so.
might destroy
No, we don't have
subspace, trapping your
exploding
ship forever.
Because, yeah,
Oh yeah,
everybody knows that.
creating a subspace rupture centered around your ship. That means the warp drive won't work ever.
Or subspace communications, or probably your transporters, communicators.
Anyway, any other ideas for Foundry challenges?
Well, the other possibility would be, I'll call it a fractured empire, where they're consolidating, what, like 12 Romulan arc missions down into 4.
There is that.
And I don't know if anybody has actually played through to see what the XP payout is on the new ones versus what we're losing. Because while that will potentially help, quote, rabbit ear, help the speed leveling up to 50.
I'm quite certain, given the amount of Fed missions there are, you won't have any trouble hitting 50 when you should. In fact, it probably is more on target now
It probably does make it so that
because
once you
the
get
Feds
to the
has
Borg
so
sector,
many more missions than the other factions.
Yeah. I remember someone mentioning that if you were to speed level during one of the bonus experience weekends where you get double XP, starting from 0, you would hit 50 before you even got to the Cardassian arc.
Oh yeah.
Oh, normally I would maybe get 5 missions into the Romulan arc, and I'd be 50. I'd be finishing out the featured episodes at max level back in the day.
Sir Boulevard says we're losing 12,000 XP, but that's made up for by Nimbus 3 because Nimbus 3 didn't exist in the original leveling scheme.
That's true.
I was gonna say I'm almost up to Captain 37, and I'm still on Nimbus. Although I did take advantage of some of the XP weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't
Cheating.
leveled any new characters since the Romulans came out. But I remember way back when they first released the Cardassian or the Dominion featured episode series. I attempted to speed level a character to 50, just because I didn't know what the minimum level for those episodes was going to be, and ended up having one of my characters. I would literally have to go and do exploration cluster missions to fill the gaps between the levels. Then, when they did free to play, they basically cut the experience required for everything in the game by half. And yeah, all of a sudden, leveling became a matter of pushing a button a few times.
So, what I actually didn't actually get to say.
Sorry.
I totally let us get sidetracked with the XP thing. The fractured empire idea would be they're taking out all of these missions, including the much loved and much revered Divide et Imperia.
Reviled is the word you're looking for.
I was trying to sugarcoat it, but they're a number of these missions are going out. This would be an opportunity to. We had the Mirror of Romulus thing before. This would be kind of more of an alternate, maybe quantum reality where these missions can be recreated by a Foundry author as an homage.
Well, we're going to need something for some of these missions that are direct sequels to things like Divided Impera.
Yeah, I can think of one by Haverha that...
Yeah. The challenge could be recreate and improve a defunct cryptic mission.
I actually am seriously considering going through those missions and at the very least, documenting where what the basics of the mission were, because it's not something that you really want people to completely forget. Minefield was boring, of course. I mean, basically, aside from the fact that you have to shoot several Romulans to complete the mission, it's basically go here, pick up a box, go there, dump the contents of the box into space.
Yeah, and to a certain extent, some of that stuff should exist in StoWiki and should continue to exist afterwards.
Well,
So Wiki has a very, shall we say, simplistic version of it. It's not a fully
fleshed out.
Yeah, I guess that works.
Something to note is that the your log tab keeps track of every dialog box. I think eventually it starts dumping them, but you could run through the mission and then get every dialog box that comes up should show up in that tab.
Yes, but you have to do it before next Thursday, potentially.
Mhm.
Because we're figuring the 29th is when everything is going to go doom.
Although you can go back and watch Smirk's live streams.
That's true.
That's true.
As he's been playing these missions.
You would still have to transcribe the mission, but
yeah, that's definitely a thought. So let's see. Let's move on. Anybody got any discussion topics for this evening? Actually, before we do that, Dragoon and I have a mission review.
yes. Although I have to admit, I only got through part 1. I haven't done part 2
That's
yet.
okay. I only got part 1 done as well. Let me pull up my notes here. The mission name is Requiem for a Dream. The author's @handle is 11001001_V2.0. On the forums, he goes by Locutus of Cactus. And the plot of this mission is basically you're asked by an old friend to go targ hunting with a Klingon on a distant planet to go in his place. You kind of go to this hunting lodge and learn how to hunt targs, interact with some various characters there, and then while you're hunting, you have a vision of your friend, this person that you met at the beginning of the mission, dying, and you set out to then afterwards you learn that he actually did die, and you set out to learn why you had this vision. So you have to go to Bajor to find his personal logs, which for some reason in this mission has been taken over by the Nausicaans. And as I was reading that, I was thinking to myself, why isn't that a bigger deal? Like, oh my God, Bajor got invaded.
An important plot point.
Yeah, why isn't, that should be a bigger deal in this mission. So this mission is, it's actually very short. I think it's maybe like 3 maps. He did some good map work, especially with the hunting lodge. It's this neat kind of circular thing using the, I don't know what you call it, the donut platform, with all kinds of, I don't know what the word I'm thinking for, all kinds of assets on top of it. And a great view of all the surrounding map. The only thing I would suggest to him on this is to try and maybe find a different backdrop, one with more lighting, because it was a very dark map. Lots and lots of shadows. And it was supposed to be daytime. It was a daytime backdrop, but it was provided lots of shadows. So I might experiment with that. I think some of the space combat in this one could be difficult because he's got a lot of mobs stacked on top of each other. I happened to be in my extremely over-geared Odyssey that you can actually see on the screen here. So it wasn't any trouble for me, but it could be trouble, especially if you happen to be running this on Advanced or Elite. When you get down to Bajor, one of the things I really liked how he did is he tried to put the mobs up on the balconies in the map, so that they're firing down at you. 3 dimensions and 3 dimensions in combat on the ground is something that not a lot of people think about, and people don't often utilize enough. Unfortunately, they didn't mostly stay up there. They hopped down to shoot at me, but that's not necessarily his fault.
Actually, one thing I've noted from all of the cryptic missions that use enemies that stand on ledges is that they're very special mobs that do not seem to be coded to move. They're not part of a group. They're a single enemy that is placed in that spot and never moves.
You're thinking of the Gorn in the canyon on Nimbus 3?
And those big acid spitting bugs in the mission.
Yeah, bug hunt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
So I said one more comment on this mission is that it's sort of it's written in kind of an irreverent style of dialogue, and I think a lot of it is meant to be funny. Is you get there's actually some really funny lines in it. You get a line from a pack lid that says, "Purple loot makes us strong." I laughed out loud when I read that line. So and kind of once I got that this was the style he was going for, I was like, okay, obviously this is not one to take completely serious. If I were to give him some advice, things to do, I say, I don't know how long his part 2 is at this point. His part 2 is out, but as short as this one was, it may not have been really necessary to split it up. Because I was really surprised by how short it was.
He estimated part 1 is length at 30 minutes and part 2 is at 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I had one. Oh yeah, and I think my biggest complaint about this mission, he may address this later on, is that I didn't, this person that I met at the very beginning, who was asking me to go targ hunting, was supposed to be an old friend from the academy, that I hadn't seen in a long time, but I didn't feel like I had any connection to this person. I wanted some scenes with them and to actually meet them. The only thing you do is interact over the communicator, long-range communications, and it didn't give me any sense of connection to this guy. So, yeah, it's like he died. I don't care. If you're going to try and establish somebody as an old friend of the player, I think you really need to spend some time with them.
Something I kind of noticed.
I would expand on that.
There's something I noticed in general about this mission is he only spent the barest amount of time explaining anything. And a lot of times I was kind of jarred when we would shift to some new point. Oftentimes because a lot of the details were kind of inconsistent with the track lore. But also because, like I said, he didn't really spend... dialogue in a lot of cases was very minimal. He would, like I said, like you pointed out, he would put in some funny dialogue, but he would never stop long enough to explain something more than, oh, this is your friend from the academy, or
yeah, or the Nausicaans are in control of Bajor now.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched the movie Pandorum?
I have, yeah.
There's a throwaway line halfway through the movie that explains where the albino space cannibals came from. And that's the only place anywhere in the entire movie where it explains that. And I had to watch the movie 3 times before I actually got that part of it. The first 2 times I watched the movie, I completely missed that explanation for where the albino space cannibals came from. And it's one of those things that is actually extremely important.
We had that discussion, didn't we, Dragoon, when I was testing your part 2 of the point where your player character is taken over by an alien entity, and I didn't feel like that was announced strongly enough.
Yeah.
There are certain plot points that you need to linger on, that you need to drive home and expand on, and make sure that everybody gets and everybody understands why and understands that this is vital to the mission.
Yeah. I mean, in a lot of cases, I don't know if I have a hard time kind of gauging how familiar the author is with Trek lore, because I know in a lot of cases he's got this old friend who is a Vulcan, but was apparently going on a Targ hunt, which is a very un-Vulcan thing to do.
Mhm.
The nature of the Targ hunt itself is a little vague to me. For instance, because you see a lot of Starfleet personnel there running it, which is be very inconsistent. I mean, the only Klingon there is your basically the person leading this Targ hunt.
Yeah.
So the nature of this whole
He
Targ hunt
essentially
is a little,
teaches you how to hunt.
Well, where is the game preserve that this Targ hunt is taking place on located?
is E something?
Eos.
Yes.
Planet Eos.
In other words, it's a planet he made up.
I believe so.
But
So
yeah,
I suppose you could argue that it's a planet that's currently controlled by the Federation, even though it had a Targ preserve put onto it by the Klingons at some point in time.
but yeah, I mean,
Need-
there's
need
no.
to
there's
say
an
such a
opportunity
thing
here to
would,
kinda
need to
expand
be
on that.
explained in detail.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the fact that a Vulcan, this wouldn't be a Vulcan. I mean, Vulcans are vegetarians for one, and second of all, they're not hunters. So it's very atypical that the Vulcan would have anything to do with this. The Vulcan that's presented to you doesn't look like he has any connection to Starfleet. And then later it's revealed that he is a liberated Borg, which he has. There's no evidence before that is part of his history, or that this is a thing that happened to him. So it kind of feels tacked on when it comes. There's no preceding evidence of it. Obviously, there's a whole thing with the Nausicaans on Bajor, which is a pretty difficult thing to swallow, considering the Federation or Bajor is part of the Federation now. So everyone would be freaking out if Nausicaans decide to move in.
Also, how would you get that many Nausicaans to Bajor in the first place? Because let's face it, they don't normally go there.
The way he had it written, it almost made it sound like this was perfectly normal for Nausicaans to be in control of Bajor, and that you were just kind of. Another point that's never explained is why a Vulcan's personal logs would be stored on Bajor in the first place.
Well,
He
okay,
didn't have-
this is yet another one of those things where if you had a proper backstory, it might make sense. I mean, let's face it. Many Vulcans are rather spiritual and are prone to contemplating the mysteries of life. And in that regard, it doesn't really stretch credulity to imagine that a Vulcan would want to go to Bajor and study the prophets.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
honestly,
that would be kind of a reasonable extrapolation and a reason to go there. And that that would be the kind of thing that I would suggest to this author, is to try and put in those explanations and flesh all this out a bit.
Yeah,
he's got sort of the bones of a good mission, and he needs to put some flesh on it. Make the Nausicaan invasion of Bajor a bigger deal. Make the captain part of the effort to retake this, and through it all, you have this personal storyline also going on of trying to find out what happened to your friend.
Yeah, it definitely would make it a much larger mission.
Mm-hmm. And you could still end on the same point and dovetail into your next mission without having to rewrite the next mission.
Yeah,
which is always a good thing. If you're going back and adding things to a part one, you want to make sure you don't screw up part two, or make so much more work for yourself.
Yeah, it's a funny thing is I would say about halfway through the Targ hunt, I'd kind of been scratching my head at all of these different little things. And I actually came to the conclusion, mostly based off of the title, that I was probably witnessing a dream. And
It's
that
certainly possible.
this all being a dream would make sense that everything was screwed up.
This is why the Klingons don't talk like Klingons, and there's a Hirogen there for some odd reason, and things like that.
Yeah, and it would explain all of the irreverent
That
dialogue
is
and stuff like
certainly
that.
possible. I had not considered that.
Of course, it's one of those things that should be explained.
Well, that said, the way he ends the mission, I
yeah,
don't
and-
think it's a dream. I don't think it's intended that way.
It's
It
hard,
would
but-
make sense
it's hard to
that
say.
way.
But that was the excuse in my head that I came up with for why none of this stuff made any sense.
Well, I definitely do want to see where he's going with it. And so part 2 is definitely on my list to play. Because while it's certainly not perfect, it has intrigued me.
And now I want to go see
And-
a Foundry mission that takes place in a dream. I suppose
Well,
Mindscape's
gentlemen,
kind of like that.
I have
The
to take
Cerberus
off.
Films expansion.
I have to take off. I have somewhere to be, but I encourage you guys to keep going. I'll tell you one thing that I would like to do as we go on through this year. We kind of started talking about the Kazon last week. I would like, and how to write Kazon. I would like to have that discussion for more species. How to write Kobali, how to write Uridians, and just, pick one each time and go in depth on how to write these species.
That does sound rather entertaining.
Yeah.
Although I don't really think we really went in depth enough last time, and we did kind of sort of discuss writing Kobali earlier in this episode.
We did. We covered that a bit, but there's
Just a
definitely
little.
depths. There's depths there that we could still plumb. But I will say goodnight and leave you guys to it. I'm sure Dragoon can lead the discussion in my absence.
Of course.
Well, this can only go downhill. All right. Well, do we have another topic that anyone would like to bring up?
I suppose we could go back to talking about the Kazon.
Cass, you haven't been on in a while. Do you have any subjects?
Well, I was going through the Foundry forum, as I am wont to do since I don't go near that other place all that often. And I don't know if anybody has noticed, a friend of ours, Duke of Rock, is kind of annoyed at the rating system. So I guess the question might be, now that we're going to get more visibility, and this visibility is going to be predicated on the top 100 missions on a location, is there anything that can be done to improve the quality or breadth of these 100 missions?
Well,
And
I
if
mean,
they're going to be based on the rating system, what can be done to help them? Is a system as it is presently good enough? Could it be better?
okay. So
Opinions, thoughts.
going past the obvious, next button that we are forever asking for. I think a lot of this stems from the weighting system, which is a controversial system, but I honestly do believe it serves a purpose. Because I remember how things were before the weighting system, where people or players would get all their friends to 5-star their mission, shoot grinders up to the top of the top-rated list, and it making certain other Foundry authors equally angry. So I
Well,
don't think.
How many? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
How many reviews does a mission currently need to have for its actual average rating to be reflected in its shown rating on the list?
Actually, never. A mission will never reach its true rating. It's basically a curve, so it's sharply lower down at the beginning, but then about 100 to 150, it starts to level off, and it'll still slowly climb closer to its true rating. But I mean, even the highest rated missions will not get its true rating.
Hmm.
It'll always be like
That
3 or
seems a
4
bit
points,
awkward.
or 0.3 or 4 below.
I mean because there are certain individuals who don't have very many missions that have even 100 ratings each. I remember one point in the past, I actually went and encountered all of the ratings that had been left on all of my missions, and it added up to less than 100. That's changed since then, of course, but you get the idea.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
and for the vast majority of people, that's going to be a thing.
well, then that's maybe a question: is 100 too high? Should the weighting level off earlier, like at say 50?
Or maybe lower than that. I mean, because realistically, a person who's a new author and has shared a mission with their friends and fleet mates, getting 30 reviews is a challenging task.
Well, the tricky part is that up to a certain point, the reviews can cause a average rating to wildly fluctuate, and it isn't until like 300 or 400 that you don't see marked changes in the rating based on every single review. So the closer you get to 0, the more weight each rating has. So I mean, like earlier on, I mean, you can have your mission fluctuating by as much as half a star, just by getting a 1 star. So I think part of the purpose of the rating system is to even out that. So I almost want to say I don't want to take it down too far to the point where you're still getting wildly fluctuating missions, or missions that have wildly fluctuating ratings. But at the same time, I'm open to the thought that perhaps 100 to 200 is just a little rough for most players.
Well, and it's entirely possible that this will now change with the advent of people being able to find missions at sectors. We might actually see mission plays go up for people, which would be awesome.
I think at very least you'll see a larger pool of that top rated, since it's now being divided by locations. Obviously, competition will be more stiff in certain locations, especially as you get closer to the social hubs. But at the same time, like I said, I mean, it can only cause some more churn to go on. One suggestion I would give is right now, when you look at the list, it shows the weighted rating for next to the entry on the list, and then the actual rating inside the entry. I would not make the weighted rating visible. I think it's just confusing. It confuses people. They think I published my mission. It's got 10 reviews, and they're all great, but I'm only getting like 2 stars. What's going on?
Yeah, that's
so
very, very awkward.
So I'm not opposed for weighting in some form being used for sorting, but I don't think it should be visible. I think it just causes too much confusion because people see it and think that a perfectly great mission is only a 2-star mission because the heavy weighting's kicking in.
Well, and I've always held the notion that in any rating under 3 stars should require it being flagged so that you can see who's done so, instead of there just being anonymous 2 and 1 stars. Maybe even anonymous 3 stars.
Don't like that.
Now the problem with that is that you're going to get some Foundry author, and I'm not even going to say this to anyone in particular, that sees, oh, someone gave me a 2-star. I'm going to go hunt them down, or essentially.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's it's a two-edged sword on that.
Yeah.
I don't think that people should just be able to anonymously say it sucks when you have no idea if they even played it. They could just be, oh, I don't like you because you're a Foundry author. 1 star.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion of that solution is as bad, or brings just as much bad as it does any good. Because I mean, there's just too much temptation for abuse.
Well, honestly, though, that this is one of those situations where I look at it and I just kind of have to ponder things because which is the lesser of two evils? It's more or less what it comes down to, and it's really hard to give a definitive statement on that when we don't really have the opportunity to see it in action.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I definitely think there's room for improvement. Obviously, as we mentioned earlier, I think getting people just in general more people playing the Foundry is obviously the first concern, and then we can worry more about getting new blood into the system and ways to do that. I don't know, like I said, maybe we can, maybe there can be like accolades for um, reviewing new missions or stuff like that. I don't want to give a full out reward like a dilithium or anything like that, but like doing accolades, like review 10 missions with less than 5 reviews or less than so many reviews, at 25, at 50, at 100. Certainly kind of less exploitable ways to kind of incentivize playing new missions. I don't know, maybe there could be an option that while the top rated list by default shows waiting, you can have an option to turn off waiting and just sort by natural rating.
Well,
That
I've
actually
also
does sound
always
like
advocated. Oh, sorry, Mark.
I was just saying that sounds like a good idea.
Because
I've always advocated there being a button that's just a random button that will just pull up a thing.
yeah, I mean there are ways. I mean, obviously, being able to view from the list more than just the top 50 would be really nice. I think a lot of the angst is kind of stems from that. But I mean, as shown in Captain Hunter's thread way back when, being able to properly view on different criteria would be nice. I've kind of gone long enough that we're starting to get a good selection of tags. I would love to see a really good system that helps get through those. I'm not sure how well the current search works, but it'd be nice that you like sort by missions whose percentages are the highest of story, stuff like that.
Well, but that certainly doesn't sound like a bad idea to start with. So,
Cass, what do you think?
I'm good with it anyway.
But like I said, one step at a time.
Yeah, the big thing is exposure is probably overall one of the bigger things we need, and if we can get more playing out there, maybe we can get more people interested. We get more people interested, we get more people playing.
More justification for dev time.
Send them more cookies, cakes, pies. Exactly.
Uh,
So yeah.
Max, that is something I would love. Is even if it's just a optional filter, a way to filter down to just the Romulan missions or missions specifically targeted at Romulans. I don't know if we'll ever get the true um, Romulan faction missions just because of the weird way the Romulan faction is divided between the Federation and the Klingon, but still a way to target those at Romulan players would be nice. And of course, all the Romulan or Tau Dewas Foundry doors.
yeah, because honestly, it appears that the main reason why they decided that they couldn't do that is because, if you have a kill objective and you put down a Fed mob, a Fed allied Romulan won't be able to shoot them.
Yeah, I would like bet you donuts that that's what they tried. Started trying to do it, and I think we saw a little bit of that sneak out prematurely, and then they realized that, well, this is just never going to work because it's essentially a split faction. But yeah, I think some kind of tag would work that only like Romulans can see Romulan specific missions with this tag. It still has ultimately is Fed aligned or Klingon aligned, but
There is one way that it could be done, but it's slightly awkward because it would more or less require you to never use red or blue units as part of kill objectives or as random NPCs on a map, which makes for a severe limitation to storytelling.
yeah, I
I
definitely
mean,
think
that's pretty much the only way you could do it with the way that the faction system is set up in the game.
so. Um, Going forward, with this new system that's coming in, what are you guys are looking to see? What would you consider a measure of success for this new system?
Well, my first obvious one would be plays for people who don't normally get plays in any particular location. Spotlights are technically they're always going to get played, especially because of the payout that they give for dilithium. That's a definite. They're pretty much guaranteed always to be in production. But there are so many lesser missions that have been out there that if they get more spotlights themselves without actually being a spotlight mission, that's a success.
I think you'll always see that the spotlight missions are the top played missions, just because they are that recommended by Cryptic or Cryptic or curated. Um, but yeah, I mean, if we can start to see like more plays from missions not on the spotlight or top 50 rated, it would be really nice.
Yeah, I mean, even say, oh, I don't know, Shadow of Midas getting more plays.
I don't know. Shadow of Midas does pretty well for itself.
But sure, I'm just throwing random one out there. But I mean, any other person that has created something that is, because there is a feeling of being maligned and second citizen for people who haven't been able to make a spotlight or have got, or well, even some of the ones that were chosen that are part of the Foundry challenges. There's a number of the missions there that are pretty awesome, but they didn't get picked as number one, so they kind of fell to the wayside.
No spotlight for you.
Yeah, exactly. So this is potentially a way to let some of those shine, like, because there's always going to be this core group of people who, I mean, I'm going to say that nominally most of the people who use the Foundry are always going to play a spotlight or a mission that is from an author who's got a proven track record of creating quality stuff. But there's so many, call them independent authors, I guess is probably the best way to describe them. The small press authors who just don't get noticed because they don't have the market. This is potentially a chance for them to have the market.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. One of the features I would love to see, like later on, added in addition to this, is the ability to follow authors. So when you do randomly come across like one of these missions by so and so, it's like, oh, this was a great mission. He does great work. I would like to follow him, and then I can easily find his other missions, and kind of allow people to kind of almost build up their own library of favorite authors.
Well, and campaign is always still on the table as a thing that we'll get. It's been said that they want to add it. It's just that other things have kept coming up or have to get locked down, and it's always gotten pushed off to the wayside. I mean, another thing I would like to see is a way to flag a mission that if I've played it already, it can be hidden from view so that something else will cycle up. Because we know they have the ability with Cryptix missions to notate if you've played it. Because
the actual Foundry system does remember whether or not you've left a rating for a mission in the past. So
sure,
I think it's technically doable.
There should be a way to put a little notation flag in a database somewhere, even if it's just like a little CSV file.
Actually, this sounds like it'd be something that'd be, relatively easy to do,
which instantly means that it's very hard to do.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
as an option when searching is put a little checkbox in there that says, leave out missions I've already left a rating for.
Well, I think even
return ratings only for things that you haven't left for.
I think even tying into this new system that features like campaign and hiding previously played missions could be very handy, because then that means that even if you somehow manage to hit every one of the top 100 missions at I don't know, the Rigel system, that it would still bring up new ones as you kind of tick off ones that you've already played. So it hides those, and it still pulls from the top 100. Outside of those,
course, assumes that people actually write over 100 missions that start at Rigel.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, sure. Well, with the hope that as more visibility is brought, more people will use the editor. Maybe we can talk somebody into doing a live stream Foundry tutorial like Neverwinter did. Hint, hint, wink, wink.
Although, now that I think about it, this randomization system actually gives people an incentive to put missions in slightly out-of-the-way locations, because, if you have 500 people with a mission that starts at Wolf 359, well, if you go over one system to, say, Baytan, and there's like 10 missions that start there, well, all 10 of those are going to be in the rotation and not just the top 100.
Well, definitely.
Right. It's going to be an incentive to put a mission in a place that is not necessarily the back end of space, but because I'm sure everybody wants to travel over to the Zeta, whatever.
Andromeda sector block?
Yeah. To go see what 100 missions are on each planet there. But at the same time, or go to to the opposite end of Klingon space to see if there's a Fed mission somehow that has a door over there, which I don't think you can do anyways, but...
Yeah, they never gave us the ability to put any Fed missions anywhere in Klingon space.
But who knows? Maybe this will encourage people to actually explore. Maybe we might even someday see the Foundry-only sector that they had talked about for the heart of the Federation.
Nah, I think that got skipped when they decided to give us the sector blocks as Foundry doors.
The exploration.
Cluster.
I'm just going to
Clustered,
point
yeah.
out that idea was Dan Stahl's dream, and he's not around anymore. But I mean, it would be a cool idea. I think if they did add into the sector, they want to do something with it other than just making it Foundry. But hey, I mean, we're flexible. We'll take doors wherever they are.
I was going to say, if we can get more doors, that in itself, I mean, just a door at Earth might even, well, it'll lead to Doom, but it'll be fun Doom.
So I got a good subject for us to kind of end on, and this is actually something Winanoid posed. Is he was kind of looking for what are some of the top or Founder missions that we would recommend for new players?
Oh, anything currently published by Alimac 30.
You stole mine.
A shameless plug for any of the Purity missions, though I suggest starting at the first one if you've never played it. And as a general thing, you can't go wrong with the spotlights for the most part, except maybe mine.
Yeah, but I mean, those are kind of the easy ones. Their spotlights are easy. I was trying to think of missions that are a little bit more out of the way, and I actually kind of I would love to point people to. Hang on, let me find it real quick.
Well, one thing I like to do is just kind of like type in a random word and do a search based on that. KDF side, it's good to plug in any species name except Klingon for members of the Klingon Empire. That usually gives you interesting results.
So something I wanted to show, and this is actually a thread in the Foundry mission database subforum. And it's the Starbase UGC list of great missions. And while it is not the most up-to-date list, it is quite long and full of a lot of good missions, ranging from older to newer, on both sides, and is a great place for new authors to start. Seriously, you could spend months, if not like a year or two, going through all of these missions. And if they made it onto this list, it's probably a sign that they're reasonably good. But yeah, for authors looking for a way to kind of dive in, like they've exhausted the spotlights and all of the good-looking ones on the top-rated, and you want a source of more content. This is a great place to start.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm just sitting here looking. It's like I see most of PF Dennis's ones in here, and if you like a story mission, that is definitely a route to go.
Yeah, his missions are definitely always interesting, and usually well built.
Oh yeah, and I just the number of authors that I see, that names that I can say are quality ones. Yes, and especially even the poor maligned KDF, there are plenty of Ceridium missions in there for them.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, for new authors, that's definitely a great resource.
Well, one of my personal favorites, KDF side, was written by Alien du Jour. That was Krios Falling.
which, as I recall, one was part of some sort of contest or something, because it's featured somehow.
Not all of the featured Foundry missions were a result of spotlights. I believe that Krios Falling was one of the ones that we got as the spotlight back when back before we had Smirk as our community manager, because the previous community manager.
Yeah, Krios definitely predates that, because that one goes back to the early days of the Foundry. That's what I was trying to remember, is that it was somehow featured in some sort of contest, because we have it spotlighted on the Starbase UGC site, but it's not an official spotlight, as I recall. So it was in something else.
Well, what I was getting at is that Brand Flakes would go and look through the Foundry, and every now and then he would find a mission that he liked and, make it a Foundry spotlight just because.
I was actually just thinking one of the authors I really enjoyed, although his missions are really old ones, are the Captain Revo missions. Those were some of the first missions I played through in the Foundry.
And I may have been wrong, but... Okay, yeah, I was wrong. It actually was in with the official spotlights. Because here we go, back August 10th of 2012. Or, I'm sorry, August 17th. So, yep, I was wrong. It was a spotlight.
Yeah, because like I said, Brand Flakes used to do that thing where he would just go through the Foundry and play things, and every now and then spotlight something just because he liked it. Which at one point in time, I think, was actually the main way things got spotlighted, and the Foundry challenges were something that came along afterwards.
Yeah, I definitely think Merc has been a little overwhelmed lately. I think it's difficult for him to find time to...
If I remember right, Smirk is actually only a part-time community manager for us. We kind of share him with one of the other games or something.
I'm not sure. I thought he was full-time still.
The way I remember being originally explained to me is that we basically have two part-time community managers, Smirk and Trendy, who are also community managers for something else, and that Cryptic does. I don't remember exactly what. And then again, since I can't remember what other game they're community managers for, I'm not 100% sure. So hey.
Alrighty. Well, I think that's probably about as good of a wrapping up point as any.
I suppose.
If anyone wants to reach us, we can be reached at email at foundryroundtable@live.com. We can also be found on Twitter at foundryroundtab. Drogan can be reached at Drogan1701. Mark here can be reached at Markhawkman, and I can be reached at Greendragoon with 2 O's. Cast?
And I can be reached at Castmodean, or also at Starbase UGC usually.
Starbase UGC is usually the easiest way to get a hold of you.
It's true.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. We will actually be pushing next week's live stream to Saturday at 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. I'm sorry. 4:30 Eastern Standard Time, 1:30 Pacific Standard Time. I think we're going to try and get one of our fellow peeps on who is outside of the normal window of availability. Plus, I think we all expect the anniversary event to be starting up by that point. So I will say good night, everyone.
Yeah. And an early happy 5 years.
Yay!
Yeah, good night.